time for Shiny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made and cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Hello and welcome to Shiny Side Out with
Dave
and Mecky on WZZR, broadcasting from Australia for Revolution Radio on Revolution Radio. Well, revolution.radio, where it's more than just radio, so jump in the chat room if you can. This is show number 300 and I want to say 7. That's what I thought, 17. 7, 10, and 300. It's on air, it's online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. This is, like I said, show number 317, 7, 10, and 300. We're going to talk about Nazi occultism. It's going to get really weird. Completely weird, by the way. So, if this is your kind of thing, please stay on the air, on the line, and enjoy the next couple of hours. I missed Solaris' show, but not because I missed it. It's because Solaris wasn't there. But Dr. Rowe was in her spot instead, which of course was also interesting. But look, if you missed her today, you can still catch her in the archives, and it just costs $5 a month to access the Freedom Slips archives. You can check out her shows, anyone's show, in fact. You know, the $5 will give you access to all of the archival content. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For me, that's the Rook people. And for Dave,
the Dark and Young.
The Dark and Young. And we pay our respects to elders, past, present, and future. Now, before I go on, I have to say something, Dave, and I will ask you in a second how you are, my friend. So, okay, I've been thinking. Okay, and I'll forget if I don't mention it. This is what I've been thinking about, everybody. We are in a field that is called conspiracy, fringe research, alternate history, alternate science, pseudoscience, pseudo-history, all wonderful names for what we do. Ultimately, though, we all are looking for some answers. We're looking for, hopefully, some truth. We're looking for some closure in some cases, right? That's what that's what binds us together, right? It really does.
Agree with
right?
You.
Right, perfect, good. Now, and look, recently I've become aware of a meme on Facebook of all places, which says that essentially Australia is a conspiracy. There's no such continent as Australia.
Oh, I love this one.
Right, I mean, look at the names. True enough, right? I mean, the names are pretty funny. I mean, Wagga Wagga, Woi Woi, Woolloomoolloo. I mean, there's 4 O's in there, right? The only thing that's coming close to you guys, and that is Mississippi. But and this is my point, really. Well, not my point, but that's one of the things I want to talk about. So clearly, these are Aboriginal names, right? So they're taken from the Aboriginal languages, similarly to you in the States or elsewhere. But Mississippi is actually an original or a native tribe word in the Americas. Mississippi, right? And many other words as well in the American vernacular that is actually derived from the first people.
I've got a couple to add in there too, Mackie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I used to live in a street called Illarangi, which some people say Illarangi.
Yep.
And there is another couple of Angie roads that aren't that describe trees, and it's meant to be a view of many trees or a place of many trees, depending on which Angie it is. It's very unique. Even this other street that I was on, because they're all named after Aboriginal terms that were used colloquially in the area that I lived in, and that was Dandabong.
That's so cool, isn't it?
It's crazy. But you know what, Mecky? When you go to Melbourne, it's weird. The names are weird.
Right? I know, it's so weird.
In comparison.
No, but look, it is because it's a different dialect.
Yeah.
But the point here is this. It is. I realized at this point that maybe I didn't realize it at that point, but it was really driven home at that point. All of these things, these I want to call them fake conspiracies, for calling into question the existence of Australia as a continent. In fact, any. I mean, only got 20 million people here, but I can assure you, for the last 30 years, I've lived in Australia and I've traveled all over Australia. It's pretty solid. Yeah, it's a different country. The sun feels different here as well. It's a different angle. The air is different. The flora is different. The fauna is different. I mean, come on, we got marsupials here. Marsupials. Yeah. So it is. So the thing is, so what I'm saying is, Australia is a real thing. It's a real thing. It's here. We're here. That's wonderful. Now, extend that to the flat Earth, and goes to the flat Earthers. There, you guys. I mean, seriously, this is what really. How can I put this best? You're hurting us. You're hurting the people on the fringe. You really are, and I tell you why. Because it's hard enough to do what we do, right? And there are enough mysteries out there to go around to satisfy anyone. Okay, anyone. Let's be clear. It is distracting and demoralizing if you come across conspiracies which are plainly idiotic in nature. Okay. And it is really taken away from, exactly, Dave. I'm going to mention that it's taken away from the research efforts of people like Jim Marrs, Lloyd Pye, Solaris herself, of course, others, right? And there are too many to mention. These are serious researchers that are trying to. They've devoted their lives. They spent their lives doing this, or a good portion of their lives. I mean, Jim Marrs and Lloyd Pye happen to be deceased, and rest in peace. That's all I can say, and I miss them dearly. But they gave their lives in the pursuit of the truth. I mean, I'm not saying they were killed because of it. I'm saying they died looking for the truth, right, and trying to figure out things. They could have taken the easy route. There's an easy way. It's a lot easier to not do this and not be ridiculed. That's a lot easier.
Put your blinkers on.
Oh, completely. What we do not need are people that are creating these red herrings, these complete. I mean, they're completely lunatic fringe. Not even fringe. We're the fringe.
No.
It's complete lunacy. These conspiracy theories are complete lunacy, right? And in 5 seconds, trying to look at the facts would show you that there's nothing there. Now, Dave just mentioned in the chat to me here on the private chat that they're intentionally created. I completely agree. These are probably some of them, certainly, or maybe they were kicked off that way. Then it's just you find enough idiots online to give this some life of its own. But certainly, I can see this being started by, I don't know, by some three-letter agency to discredit any of the work that is being done by the actual researchers, right? Because the thing is this: you can't even say conspiracy anymore. The word conspiracy has taken on a completely negative connotation.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's like, or my favorite is UFO. Oh, aliens. No. Let's be clear what UFO means. UFO is an acronym. UFO means unidentified flying object. Nobody has said there's aliens, or it's inner Earth, or it's time traveler, or dimension traveler. No one, or secret military experiments. All we're saying, they're unidentified flying objects. Full stop. Okay. Not saying where they come from. There's some theories and some close encounters. No, that's all good, right? But let's be clear. That's what it means. Unidentified flying object. Okay? Conspiracy, the word itself. I mean, do you think there are conspiracies in the world? Of course there are conspiracies in the world. You got to be a moron to think there are none. And a conspiracy theory is that's much worse than just a conspiracy. Conspiracy theory is because now you're alleging that there's a conspiracy. You're alleging it. You're saying, I think there's a conspiracy. Oh, I don't think, that's all quite right. No. Let's be very clear. We know that when theories have been advanced around conspiracies, they have been proven correct. My most favorite of all, and you do your own homework, and this goes to all the haters and all the trolls, right? And all the pseudo critics in their armchair.
Armchair critics, yeah.
Yeah, right. So Montauk and mind control. So these documents were declassified. We had a show on this, I mean, a couple of shows actually. And in the declassification, it said that not only did the CIA conduct this, not only did they conduct it, they also colluded with institutions such as colleges, universities, and corporations in order, to test these mind control techniques, drugs, and all kinds of wonderful things, right? So that's actually a historical fact. Of course, now that's been completely dismantled, the documents say. It no longer happens. It happened, back in the 50s, no longer, it's no longer a thing. Well, okay, whatever. The point is, it happened.
It was a thing. It
is
a thing because it's still a thing.
It's a thing. Now I agree with my esteemed co-host here, and I still believe that it's a continued effort. I think it's a continued effort that is been taken over by some other organization, or it's moved even further into the shadows. So just to be clear, though, right? That was a conspiracy theory. Somebody said, "Oh, I think the government is doing some mind control stuff." That's a theory because I got no evidence. I got no proof. It's a theory. Along come the declassified documents. Oh, it is no longer a conspiracy theory. It is a proven conspiracy.
That's right.
To control the minds of the people.
Yes.
Okay. So this whole thing around Samsung and other television sets that can broadcast into your brain and all that stuff. That's actually a thing. That's a thing. We had a show yet again.
Yeah.
On the patents that went with a whole bunch of these technologies. And I'm happy. It's in our show notes. You knock yourself out. I'm happy to bring it up again if there's a big outcry to do that. But it's a real thing. Again, it's a real freaking thing. These devices, frequency devices and so forth, they have been patented. Now, of course, Solaris has experience with things that go well beyond the realm of patenting. Right? None of the things that she was exposed to, I think, have been officially patented. Some component parts might they might have.
But the technology was well proven back in the Montauk days, then a technology developed to be able to transmit this to a specific individual.
I completely agree. And by the way, a Mac store in the chat room. And by the way, if you have the time and you're listening on YouTube, try to listen live. This is it's 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon in the southern hemisphere and in the Australian Sydney time zone. It is 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Sorry.
In the American time zone.
I couldn't mute myself fast enough when I'm laughing. Good on you, Mac Store. We agree. We absolutely agree.
Yeah. So okay, Maxter says that the word conspiracy, whoever scoffs at the word conspiracy has no idea what the word means. Completely correct. And the reason I'm bringing Maxter up is because I want people to interact with us in the chat room. It's awesome. So you can ask questions, when we have a guest or even now, whatever, and just contribute. Okay. Now, and again, he's just mentioning, I can't say that, he's mentioning 10, 12. He's mentioning 10, 12.
Yep.
10, 12, you're not monetized anymore. So doesn't really matter, but, and you're right, Maxter, yet again, I'm going to say it because they've taken our money away, and 9/11 is no longer a theory. I mean, you have to be, the theory, or the conspiracy theory, is that 19 men with box cutters on their own, planned from a cave in Afghanistan, executed. Well, yeah, not all of them. One was from Yemen, I think.
Yeah, okay.
But it's another thing, So they did that. No, that's the conspiracy. That's the crazy thing, right? And then the buildings collapsed because of fire. Not one single skyscraper in the world ever, before or after 9/11,
iron or steel. No steel skyscrapers have ever fallen.
No, they haven't. They haven't fallen. Even if there was a massive fire raging for days.
Yeah.
No, didn't happen. Oh, that's a shock. So, in fact, did you know that a lot of people believe there were a lot of Afghans? I've had this conversation at work now a couple of times. I try not to, but we're over dinner having a few drinks. You start to get talking, and this person said, "Oh no, there are a lot of Afghans on the plane." I said, "No, not one." and Iraqis and Iranians, they were on the plane too. I said, no, they actually weren't. They were mostly Saudis. Oh no, and that person bet me $1,000.
How are you going to spend it?
But the thing is, you're in my wheelhouse here. That's just silly, right? this stuff is why I'm a Viking. Okay, this is my thing. But no, look, it is though, right? You wouldn't. you're not gonna have a bet with Michael Jordan as to who can land the most hoops,
jump.
right? Or
Yeah.
can jump the highest. That's just silly, right? Anyway, the point is, I didn't. Of course, I didn't ask for the money, but there was not a single Afghani, not a single Iraqi, not a single Iranian. I think it was 16 or 17 or even 18 Saudis, and one Yemenite, and possibly some other Arab nation, but not Iraq, not Iran, and definitely not Afghanistan. Okay, so just to be clear, so here we are, right? Just to conclude my rant here, please, if you know better, all right, and if you're just doing it for a lark, it's okay. Then say it. I mean, this is like a fun side, or it's April Fool's joke, or whatever it is. That's okay. Everybody likes a good laugh, right? But please, because they throw all of us into the same bucket. Oh, conspiracy theories. So you probably believe the Earth is flat? What? Because that's the thing. The thing asked me, so what do you think about the moon landing? I said, oh, look, I think we've been to the moon. If you're asking me specifically, if we landed on the moon in 1969, I will say to you,
no.
Probably not. No, yeah, exactly. My opinion is we probably did not land. And then I gave them the whole, Apollo program failure and one after the other, and had to get to the moon before the end of the decade, blah, 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 all that, right? Oh, they go, oh. So do you think the Earth is flat? How are these two things even related?
That's a completely different point.
No, but it isn't.
The one that I bring up for the moon as well, just to tack that on, is the low Earth orbit footage showing them faking the Earth from a distance.
Well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Right. Dated when they should have been at the moon. So just hands in the air, can't help you.
Yeah, but to look at this though, guys, you're right, Dave, when you're saying they're completely unrelated. But no. Having said that,
not a flat Earth. Yeah, you must be believing in the flat Earth then, if you're a conspiracy theorist.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's exactly. But and that's how arguments actually go. So let me put it this way: when it comes to evolution, people have the two camps that people understand. There's the Christian camp, right? And then there's the scientific. I mean, like the two dyed-on-the-wool camps. One says evolution, yay! The other one says creation, yay! Right? There's no middle ground. So if I said to you, well, the theory of evolution as postulated by Darwin, for me, doesn't fill all the gaps. Oh, creationist. No.
Actually.
No. But if I said this in front of a bunch of Christian fellas, I'm not sure there's this almighty God that singles out specific people to help them, and then kills everybody else and makes everything in 7 days. Oh, evolutionist! Yeah. So there is no middle ground. But the truth is, there is only middle ground. That's all there is. Only gray. Shades of gray. Yeah. There is no black and white. Let me give you an example. You probably... Oh, look, if I lose you here, stay with me. For the longest time, technology, people were going on about, should it be on-prem service, meaning you've got servers...
No. Yep.
Or like in your house, or should it be in the cloud? Two dogmatic positions, right? Guess what? The world is hybrid, meaning there will be some servers that be in the cloud, and there'll be some servers, that you physically have at your location or in the data center, or whatever. So there's no middle ground. Now, Dave again mentioned something in the chat just now. Interventionists, yeah, absolutely. So I think we need to take a step back from these two dogmatic positions, because they're not helping us. By arguing something that we know is plainly wrong, because we do know that both positions are wrong, okay? At least the way they are being presented. Because if the religion is right, the religious quarter, then we have to ask ourselves, which religion is right? Right? So there's creation, okay, which religion has it right. So one of them has like, some of them have to have it wrong, or most of them have to have it wrong. And we also know that evolution doesn't answer all the questions. Now, again, Dave is prompting me with ancient aliens. Now, the ancient alien theories are only pushing the question one level out. So let's say, for argument's sake, that we were visited at some point in the past by an advanced civilization or whatever, right? No, let's say it, and they they saw like primates running around, whatever. I actually think it's different. My theory is completely different. But that's the ancient astronauts, and they said, oh, we need a slave race. Let's rise these up. Let's do some genetic modification, la la, whatever. Bob was your uncle, and off we go, right? And that's what they did. Now, but that only pushes it out one. So that would explain how we came to be here, right? Mm-hmm. That's great. That's great. So I mean, it still doesn't explain the origin of life, all right, or the first single cellular organism, or DNA for that matter. None of that, or RNA. None of that has been explained by this, by the way. Okay, but these ancient aliens, these ancient astronauts, had to come from somewhere as well. They had to be were they created? Did they evolve? We are not answering the question with this. We just
That's right.
We're just postponing the question, right? We're just pushing it further away. So what is the answer then? So the answer is, I really like you guys to consider the hypothesis. I'd like you to consider the hypothesis, and I'm not going to go into it because it'll take too long, and we will never finish the Nazi stuff. But yeah, and the one thing I would like to ask people out there, the serious researchers, please don't be discouraged by the red herrings and the so-called conspiracy researchers that are plainly put there to discredit us. They're put there plainly to call everything we say into question. They're put plainly there to be a distraction from the actual issues, right? It's clear. It's clear. And Omega Logos just said, Toe explains everything, which is in fact the theory of everything. Well, I will say that that the hypothesis will explain quite a bit. Okay, I ask you to look at the hypothesis yet again. Sorry, Dave, this was a long thing, but it really bothered me because it does take away a lot from the true research, and it puts everybody in the bucket. You said to me that just now, flat Earth and questioning the moon are not the same thing. They are to a lot of people out there because
exactly
people just don't know any better. So how have you been, my friend?
Oh boy, I've been driving around everywhere today, and I came pretty close to your place. I nearly dropped in and said, let's do the show together.
Oh, sure.
I should have, didn't. I made it home, though, in time. My calculations were correct. But, Mackie, look, you're one of those points that you are making, and I completely agree. See, I think interventionists, I think there's a circle of people staring at the truth in the middle but are unaware of it. The people in the circle are all facing inward towards the middle of the circle but don't see the truth. So, evolutionists, it counts for some things. There's a bunch of missing stuff there that doesn't seem to have any answer. I like the intelligent design, which is the God component. I like that. I mean, there's a lot of people that need to believe in something, and then that's all they had. So, and there's very few choices out there, really. Yeah. Because they don't want to believe that there's other life elsewhere that could have already been here, yeah, or visited. So all of these parties in this big circle, and there's more of them, and the interventionists, obviously there was life already here, and people, came, as Mackie said, and intervened in the life that was here just to create us, and yes, that only answers us. Mm-hmm. But there's other people around in a circle, and those people believe that, maybe the aliens had collected a whole bunch of animals and put them here as like a safe haven, like a zoo. Not a zoo, but maybe like this is one of the best planets in the region. I don't know. Well, it used to be, it's like, I don't know. It's like one of those, Detroit. I'm sure that was lovely before all the manufacturing went in there, and all the pollution in the 70s. So all these people don't understand that I think there's something in the middle, like that answers all of it, but no one has hit on that yet. And this is, look, conspiracy theorists are just researchers. They're researchers who are running down a lead like any good journalist would do. Good journalist, not the tear it off Reuters people, right? That they'll have a hint or a gut feeling and just run with it and find a whole bunch of stuff that seemingly weren't connected, but what, you can put them together and sure enough, voila, no more theory. That's true. True with drugs in sport. Who knew, right? What about betting on sport when you play that sport? Oh, no one does that. Actually, everyone's getting busted doing that these days, right? What about cheating and ball tampering, Mickey? That came up.
Well, that doesn't happen.
But people were more outraged by that than getting, I don't know, cheated on by the government or lied to by the government. What? That's just a sport player playing sport. Who cares? I don't even care. I care if my government cheats or lies or steals. I care about that, and everyone should. But this is the thing. You throw these stupid things at us, and you've got to dodge and weave like Neo to get around them, like the flat Earth and that Australia doesn't exist. And you've got to avoid all the things, just topping it off, Mackie, that Mackie was talking about before, UFOs. It's not aliens, it's just, we don't know what it is. We saw something in the sky, or under the water for that matter, a USO, and we don't know what it is. It's a UFO, and it doesn't cry aliens. Probably our own tech. There's so much secret stuff out there, we don't even know what we got anymore. Jeez.
That's right.
Now, I was going to segue this two steps away, okay? But that's how crazy this existence is. And everyone says, oh, what do you think about JFK? What do you think about the moon? What do you think about this? 9/11? Why not? I've got an opinion, but do you really want to know it? I mean, if you're asking me, you probably want to know, number one, for just TV entertainment purpose, you want to know what's the current conspiracy, Dave? Tell me all about it.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean?
What's the one that's going?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, flat Earth. You can just go and deal with that, and when you come back and tell me there isn't one, I'll say I know. But then you're going to put us in the same container, right? I think researcher is a more respectable way of describing people who are actually delving into it. We know conspiracy theory was meant to be made up to be derogatory. And of course, everyone and their dog is now stuffed into this thing, even if you're right. Even if you know, or you find the truth and it's come out, and there you go. Did you know, Mackie, this time in the Tour de France, they were examining each bicycle to see if they had a motor in the hub inside their axle.
Really?
Yeah,
Is that right?
Because they found someone with one.
Oh.
Was it publicized? Now they're so small, you can just put it in there. You can give yourself a couple of extra horsepower, right?
Right.
Awesome. So it's completely possible now, and people were talking about it, and everyone's, oh, don't be stupid, can't do that. Actually, we found one. Oh, we need to audit everyone's bicycles. Oh, maybe only the winners. What? All of them should be taken down, pulled apart, and checked. I don't care if there's 10,000 of them. Who cares? I don't care. Right? You want to find a cheat, do that. Or maybe we should just advance that technology and say, well, okay, we're going to have two Tour de France's. One's the original one where you're just conventional, right? And then here's the one where you can take as many drugs as you want and you can have your bicycles supercharged. Who cares? Let's see how fast we can get this done. Like drugs in sport. Why don't we have a normal sport and then a sport that people only live for like 2 years because they're taking 70 damn drugs? Yeah. But geez, that'd be fast. Whatever it is. Right, like a super league. We can do that anyway. So what I wanted to say was, with all this stuff around, and all the data we got, and you'll see the segue in a second. All this data that's out there, and the stuff that we're willing to share. You mentioned cloud and on-prem, and well, guess what? I saw a news story this week, and I was trying to capture it, but I couldn't capture it in time. And it is 2 billion Facebook accounts worth of data has been matched up against this medical record, like free-for-all, apparently. So 2 billion accounts that were extracted from medical systems all around the world, apparently, by some company, not Cambridge that whatever it was, not intelligentsia, that's an Italian word, that not the Cambridge company, but another one, yet another one that had 50 million or something, right? Well, this new one has extracted medical data from everywhere and is now running a program to link it against a Facebook account automatically.
Really?
So they'll know who you
Wow.
are. They'll connect
Wow.
your medical data to your Facebook data, and this is actually a program that's in place right now. You didn't sign up for that. Okay? You didn't, and now some company has 2 billion of everybody's data. Now, just like Google was easily able to, with 22 or 23 points of interest, able to identify every human on the planet, they can do the same thing. If you don't know it, if you take a photo of some just random people in the street and you log it up to your Facebook and you've got auto tagging turned on, you can see who they are.
Wow.
Okay, because they've opened that up now. Face Rec is fully automatic. So all I'm saying is, at some point in the future, this Facebook scandal, it's the only thing that I can suggest it is going to bite them on the butt. And we're going to try and find something else to use instead to chronicle our... What did I say this week? I said, never in history of the world has lives less lived been more chronicled.
Yeah, that's very true.
Absolutely. Only the really famous people had stuff written about them. Now we've got a data journey on everybody's lives. What? The hell's going on?
Yeah.
And you know, it's a boon for all of the 3-letter agencies, Mackie, as you already know, that already have access
boon,
to
indeed.
back of everything.
It is. I love that word. It's a boon. But yes,
Boon,
yes, it is.
yes.
It is. Now look, we all know about carnivore and so forth, and one of the mega search programs that the CIA, NSA were running. Carnivore was another one which I'll not forget. But the point is, imagine how much more they can do now, and especially with the collusion of the Zuckerbergs of this world. It's not just Facebook. It's Google. It's Amazon. It's Walmart. Dave put me onto this story about Walmart.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know what? It makes perfect sense. Give me. I'll give you the background very quickly, and I'll let Dave give you the detail very, very quickly. Walmart stores are closing all over the place. They're closing, and sometimes there's military guard involved. There's essentially these Walmart stores are gigantic warehouses, massive, right? Mm-hmm. And apparently, Dave says Sears as well. Yep. Now, if you needed detention camps, not just camps, but covered areas, detention centers.
Filtering centers.
Yeah, that too. Walmarts or Costco's or any of those large
concrete tilt-ups.
Yeah, they're
with a little
ideal.
gardening center on the end of it.
No, that's right. I mean, plumbing is there. I mean, you can increase the plumbing if you have to. The facilities to have courts there. You can. It would house thousands of people. You go to any Walmart, any Costco, any of those in the States, even in Australia now, thousands of people could be held there. But Dave, give us a bit more of the background. I found that story fascinating.
Yeah, well, initially because the Walmarts were being closed, and they for various reasons, and the one that I liked the most, it was the most comical to me, was, we found a plumbing fault, and now it's closed forever? What?
There must have been some plumbing fault.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, maybe the sewage was connected to the water, I don't know. But anyway, whatever it was so awful that the staff were only told that morning when they arrived to work that it's closed, and then they emptied it, and it never opened again. There's a whole nother conspiracy about there being conspiracy, right? There's a whole nother line of research that says that they're all connected by underground tunnels now. I don't sort of fall for that one at the moment. But as the research is getting bigger and broader, I'm discovering that there's more and more, and they're everywhere. And Sears as well is another. Now, the retail market can't be so bad as to open up a store and close it within 12 months, and even the mayor of one town, I forget where it was now, was having a hard time with it. He was there at the opening, and then suddenly it's closed. And one store was open for only one day. Brand new store, brand new Walmart. It's open for one day, and the staff weren't invited back the next day. They had to come to the car park, and it's all fenced off. It's like they mistakenly opened it. They weren't told about it. Now, in Australia, we had a very similar building, same style. It's a concrete tilt-up, single floor, and it's got the little gardening section at the end. You could just call it a Walmart, right? Exactly the same design, and guess what? They opened up, I don't know how many of them, 30 or something stores, and then they all closed. And they weren't taken over by other companies. They're still there in a closed state with fences in front of them, and there's still power on. Still power. And there's guards, just like in the US. Some are military, some are police, some are just privately, what are they called? Rent-a-cop. Now, the conspiracies are, in America, some of them are having modifications. There's builders there and they're doing, razor wire on the top. That's always a sure sign something's going on. Some of them are peppered with cameras. That looks like the full install and razor wire and a guard tower kind of setup. Some are close to railway, as you would imagine. Picking up from today's story, today's show cycle, the Nazis and the occult, you want to be near a rail yard, you want to be near, a freeway or something that you can get people in there really quickly. Maybe local law enforcement or something. I don't know how you're going to identify people once they're wearing ribbons on their arms. How do you put them in there? How do you sort them into, group A, B, and C? Some are going to peel off straight to, I don't know. So maybe it's a pandemic thing. So they have them in 3 sections of people who are more likely to be sick because they were with someone who was sick, some people who are showing symptoms, and some people who are already being affected by it. Remembering that we lost 200 million people, which was 1/3 of the population back in, was it the 1300s with the plague? 200 million. There was only 600 million people then. 1/3 of the entire population of the planet died because of the plague. 20 million or something in 15? We lost to a pandemic. Maybe there's a pandemic. Or what's more likely, that if we went to war with someone, we have already constructed prison camps for those people that are residents of your country who just happen to match the nationality of the people we're fighting against overseas. Okay? So if it was China, then the Chinese get locked up. If it was Russia, then all the Russians get locked up. If it's Japanese, then all Japanese. Think about World War II. That's what happened in the US. Happened here too, Mackie, by the way. And this is the tough part. There must be a plan. And I know that in Australia that we had this entrepreneurial tax break for companies that were willing to give something a go, and it fails. So fail quickly and fail cheaply is the only way to get something to give it a shot. Why not? Let's give it a shot. So in Australia, there was a legislation passed to allow entrepreneurships and companies to invest money in research and all this stuff. And if it happens to fail, it doesn't matter, there's a tax break. So, Mecki, it could be that in Australia, the Masters part of company here that created these tilt-ups, concrete tilt-ups, got a tax break on the construction. Maybe they ended up costless for them. And the government gets them as a result. And it just looked like it was completely unintentional. Because if the government started to build these buildings without names on the front, boy, we'd be all going crazy with the conspiracy.
Yeah, of course.
So just happens that they're there now, and they've been there now for more than a year. There's, I don't know, 18 months, maybe 19 months, uninhabited. and they're matching the same things that I'm seeing in the Walmarts in the US. And you know what? I think they're there for another reason. Mekki, last week I mentioned about the Russians, how I don't think that they're the true enemy. You notice now the stories about that, Kirkle and his daughter, and that the guinea pigs were dead at home, and the dog or something.
Yeah.
So there's dog and so that Russia's off the hook now as well, apparently.
Yeah, interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah, so they were so quick to call it, and then Putin's gone, hey, wait a minute, what? Who did what now? People, what?
I know nothing!
No, nothing. Schultz mode. And then, as a side effect, all the countries, all the coalition companies said, you can bugger off your diplomats, we don't care. Right? You're probably guilty, so we're just going to exit them. And he goes, well, we're going to exit, because you're going to do that, we're going to exit out yours. You can have yours back. And now we're in a tense situation, and it looks like it wasn't even the fault of Russia or ordered by Russia. And I had arguments with some friends of mine on Facebook, and they're going, oh, mainstream media. Doesn't matter what they were saying. They were just re-sprouting mainstream media.
Yeah.
And all I said was, until you can prove that it was a Russian-ordered attack, I'm standing on the sideline. I don't believe that we should be so quick to presume that that's what it was. But this and that. I said, no, they're not connected. You're just throwing stuff together now for no reason. Yeah. And I was right. And I called that one. And I have to stand on this. But right now, what I have to ask, what was happening that had to be the main news item to drown out the other news items in the background? Because it was nothing, right?
That's right.
Really, I mean, there's nothing to it. So, what was it? I saw the news story said something like it's been 4 weeks or something, and they hadn't found the dead pets yet. They'd combed the apartment. It's only a small building, and they ended up dead. So yeah, who knows? It's more likely, and actually, that the people are alive. I don't know what state they're in.
Yeah.
But they would have already known.
Yep.
They would have been able to talk to them, hopefully. And the outcome's going to be a positive thing. But I'm more worried, and I said this 2 shows ago, and more about the effect of China in all this. And if you watch the memes come back, or if you watch the news, look at the background news. Don't look at the front news. That's the stuff that we're meant to think. But all the other little tiny stories from all the local little places everywhere, look for those and look for the things that really mean something. That's me.
That's right.
That's me done.
Yeah. No, look, and look, I think what we've seen here, and thank you, Dave, for giving us the detail around all these things, is that if you wanted to do research, there's a lot of information out there to be delved into, to increase our knowledge, rather than wasting everyone's time on essentially what amounts to conspiracy falsehoods, right? Please don't be that person. Please. If you're unwittingly somehow involved, I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one about why the flat earth is not a thing. Very happy. Okay, I'm going to science all over you if you want. if you want. But honestly, please don't do that, guys. It's 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 a waste of time.
Last point.
Please go ahead.
To show how I think maybe just a little, I'm a little disappointed in the level of people that we're making through our schooling system. Came that we should English. Is that right, Mekki? We should all talk American. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's disappointing. I think in the end that there are still people that remain buried in their social media rather than, and maybe to an end, discover the world around them. I caught the train the other day, Mackie, to work, and I looked around the train at everyone's heads tilted down at that 25 degrees from the horizon to their devices, and anything could have happened on the train without them seeing it.
Yeah, look,
I looked out the window. I thought that's a nice thing to do.
So that, in fact, the two things I want to mention. One thing that you mentioned to me about Sydney. Another thing that I want everybody to think about. So none of us can look into our neighbors' homes. Like, we can't, right? And I want you to go through your city or village or whatever, wherever you're living, and look around at all of the houses, apartment buildings, other buildings, where you have no idea what goes on inside. I mean, none, zero. Okay, just think about that. If that doesn't screw with you a little, then maybe you're built for this kind of stuff, which is good. And secondly, Dave mentioned something very interesting to me, and it's about observation. It's about living your life, but not just living it and going on about it, but also being mindful of the moment you're in. There are a lot of beggars in Sydney at the moment. In the street, homeless people, supposedly, and they all have very similar signs. They all sit very similarly, they're sort of crouched down, begging for money. And Dave saw a person, clearly a well-dressed person with two security personnel, I'm sure, take money from those beggars. Now, I hadn't noticed it, but I'm going to make a point of being more observant. So clearly, what is happening in Sydney is there's some kind of racket going on, well, for want of a better word, a begging racket, something that you would find in India, in Thailand, most of Southeast Asia, in fact, where people are crippled and maimed, so they make for better begging personnel. So people feel more pity, including children having limbs amputated and such. That happens. That's not a fantasy. That's a thing. So I mean, how low can you be as a human being, thinking, hey, that's a good revenue stream for me. I'm not going to do that as a living. I'm going to have people beg for me. Now, if you don't hurt them in any other way, that's fine. But if you then go down to the path of making them, actually physically harming them, that's horrific. In fact, if you saw the movie Slumdog Millionaire, you would have seen at the beginning when they got these street kids, and one of them was blinded, so he makes a better beggar. So that stuff is real. But now it's in Sydney, an organized racket, it seems. They write the signs for the people. They put the people in strategic positions. they're about 100 meters from each other, something like that, 75 to 100 meters.
Yep. It's a frequency walking down through the streets, yeah.
Bingo, right? And they're prominently on street corners of major intersections. So it's a chance. And look, Sydney side is a fairly generous folk, and we like street performers, buskers, right? We give generously to those too. I give because I like the idea of street performing. I would like my children to one day walk down the street and have someone play their accordion or something, right? It's nice. It breaks up an otherwise cold city. But so I like my fellow citizens and Sydney siders give, and we give to people that are homeless as well. It's just a thing. But now clearly it is someone is exploiting that market gap. They've thought to themselves, instead of thinking, oh, these poor guys, no, what they saw is opportunity. I'm saying opportunity. It's astounding, and I have to doff my head, because I maybe that's where I'm lacking, but I just don't think like that, right? Maybe if I did, I'd be a millionaire now, right? I'm thinking, if I was just more entrepreneurial, and I see a homeless person and I think, oh, poor person, No, wrong, Mickey. Opportunity is what you see. Opportunity, right? You see a forest. I say, oh, fresh air, birds chirping, squirrels frolicking. No, paper mills. pulp production, biofuel. That's what you should say. And I guess that's what sets people apart, Dave. I don't know. When you told me, I was dumbfounded. I go, wow, that's just crazy.
Well, just to solidify this, I walked behind the two heavies at a distance of maybe 20 meters, and I slowed up and waited for them to do their business with each one of the beggars. And the beggar had a sign written, and now they've got pets, if you don't notice. They've got pets with them now, because I think that's maybe more of a sympathy. So now you can give to the person and the pet, or the pet. You've got a pet to look after. Oh my goodness, right? So the head dude took the money, gave back a couple of coins, and threw it back, and then walked on. And I thought, oh gee, that's what a mean dude, I thought to myself. And then we hit the next person at the next block and did the same thing. And I just straight away, racket. That's all I could think in my head.
Yeah, completely.
And I thought, when I looked at the handwriting of the sign, it said the same thing in the same writing on the same kind of cardboard with the same pen or texter or Sharpie if you're in the US. What? So now there's a beggar's racket in Sydney. What happens, Mackie, if I decide just to put my blanket down? Am I going to get heavied into this?
Dude, I mean, look, I don't know, because there's still people out there which are, to me, genuinely homeless, and they've been there well before any of this happened. The question is, you're right. Would they be pressed into service as well, or would they be muscled off the street? I mean, they're still there now, because they're there.
Street.
Yeah, they're seen as competition, obviously. Look, that's a good question. Now, what I would like to see is a current affair. So in Australia, we've got something called a current affair. It's sort of like a local, hard-hitting.
They're guilty, Mackie.
Music. Oh, music is playing?
No, you can hear it by the music they're playing.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So yeah, that's right, harding. And I would like this to see them investigated. I've got half a mind. You know what? I will probably send them a letter saying, look, guys, this is what we noticed. I think this is a story. I think this is a thing. Actually, I'll do that. You know what? That's the thing I'm going to do once I get off this. Once I've got the show. So if you see a current affair show popping up investigating a bagging racket in Sydney, it's the shiny side out that made it possible.
Awesome. Just don't label us anywhere in that.
No.
Yeah, okay.
Oh no, what?
Because I've been on it. It's usually dodgy builders.
Cult or savior.
You got to moonlight doing something, Mickey. That's all I can say.
I know, right?
Yeah. But, just to round it out, because we're just about to hit the music. Remember, don't forget that George Bush Jr., he said the French don't have a word for entrepreneur. That's true.
Freedom prize.
Take the time to donate, everyone. We'll see you on the other side of the break for Shiny Side Out.
Your host.
Hello and welcome back to Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out. Today we're going to talk about.
Muted.
I can see that. Today we're going to talk about Nazi occultism. Was there anything you wanted to conclude? Because we've frittered away the first hour.
As we do. The only thing that I wanted to add, and that was a message from the chat room that also mentioned Toys R Us. So that was another casualty, and those stores still remain vacant. So there's Walmart's, Toys R Us, Sears, and in this country we have the newly built and newly vacated Masters stores, which resemble the Walmart with a little, like the plant area that's got the cage component at the end. So just thinking aloud, we were, and yeah, I'm not saying all Sears closed, but there was tons and tons of them that closed. And you have to, if you do a map of the country, there's a really clean amount of these covering everywhere where there's population. So where the dense population is more, or when there's less population, there's less, and it looks like a per capita kind of distribution. Look, we'll find out. We'll know if we're right when it all comes to fruition. If it doesn't, then maybe it's like the seed bank. Just maybe. Maybe it's that insurance policy.
Let's hope it doesn't, because if it does happen,
let's hope.
then it's not a good time for anyone, right? So yeah, let's just hope that this is storm in a teacup, overreacting, whatever. But it is disconcerting when you find out that Walmart has in fact been working with Homeland Security officially, and there's documented evidence for that as well. There'll be other people that have been working with Homeland Security, of course, but Walmart is uniquely positioned, to provide very large holding areas, if you want to call it that. Now,
and if you were to liken it to here, the company that owned Masters, it's one of the 2 largest companies in Australia.
Yes.
So, they've been killing. Allegedly, they have been killing the local produce manufacturers, whether it's milk or eggs or any kind of farming here, in favor of wanting to import it by throwing the prices down and down and down and down and down until until the manufacturer can't afford to make them anymore, and then they've closed up shop. Okay, and so there's knock-on effects there, and look, I don't support that. I think when a company gets to a certain size, it has a moral obligation to perpetuate its business with the highest respect to the community. But I guess that's crazy socialist talk, Mecky. What am I, like a communist or something?
You are a socialist, communist, pinko, greeno, something or other, lefty. That's what. There's no hope for you. We gotta come and get you in the dark of the night, and then there'll be no more you, because we can't have that. Transmission end. Well, Dave, I had a strangest feeling.
Good on your Montauk. Just say. So, Mecky, look, I'll throw it to you. I'll just announce the topic, where this is part 6 of our show arc, if you like, Nazis and the Occult. It's an attempt to put together the precursor to the Nazi party at its peak. How was it created? What events came together? What actions did they take? How did they collect people? At the last week's show, we talked about Hans Kammler, and there's a little bit to go on that. Kammler is one of the highest ranking Nazi party generals, let's say, an SS general, who oversaw the production of the top secret facilities, and he was put in direct control to oversee the construction of these facilities, and that he seems to have disappeared, and no one seemed to care. Neither side, either he wasn't listed in Paperclip, that he could have taken on a different identity to become involved in that, and then his death seemed to wander all over the place. No one could tie that down. And that's what we brought to light last week. So if someone of such high like a military target. He's a high-value target. You would have imagined that he would have been found, and he would have been a contributing member of the continuation of the German space race missile program in the US under NASA. I would just imagine that, or something. He would have been part of something, and very important. What a great project manager the guy must have been.
Oh yeah,
You know,
outstanding. No, seriously, he must have been. Look, you don't rise to to the top of any hierarchy unless you're capable. And clearly, Hans Kammler was extremely capable, and also not only capable but completely ruthless. At least from what we can see here. Right, so Dave is right. There's actually an article, an online article we want to share with you, which was written June 11, 2014 by Alan Hall in Berlin, and it was written for Mail Online. Did US fake top Nazis WW2 suicide and spirit him away to get hands on Hitler's secret weapons program? I will answer that for you. That's a yes from me. So what does the
yes from him?
So what does the article actually say? Very interesting article. We're going to share that with you here in totality. It's unabridged. The blood of thousands are on his hands. SS General Hans Kammler killed himself in 1945 in the dying days of Hitler's Germany. That, at least, was his official fate. The man, steeped in the horrors of the death camps, had met his just deserts. However, it is now claimed that Kammler survived the war, spirited away to America, and given a new identity by the US authorities. For the general wasn't just an expert in the technicalities of industrial-scale slavery and slaughter, he was also deeply involved in the Nazi secret weapons program. The Americans, according to a TV documentary, were determined to have his knowledge and not let him fall into the hands of the Russians. Both the US and the Soviet Union tried to recruit Hitler scientists after the war to help with their own space and military programs. But it is claimed that Kammler's record was so monstrous that his death had to be faked and he had to have a new identity. The whole history of suicide is staged, said Berlin historian Rainer Karlsch. There are several documents that clearly demonstrate that Kammler was captured by the Americans. Another expert, Matthias Uhl of the German Historical Institute in Moscow, said, "The reports from America are more credible than those given about the alleged suicide by Kammler's associates." Born in 1901, by the end of the Second World War, Kammler was almost as powerful as S-Chief Heinrich Himmler and Armaments Minister Albert Speer. Names which you're probably familiar with, guys. He had access to the Nazis' most advanced technology, including the weapons of retaliation, the V-1 and V-2 rockets that caused death and destruction in Britain, but came too late to turn the tide of the conflict. Now, there's some bullet points around Kammler's achievements here. Kammler designed and built the crematoria at Auschwitz, which incinerated most of the bodies of the estimated 1.2 million people murdered at the camp in Nazi-occupied Poland. Secondly, Kammler was also responsible for the construction of the so-called weapons of retaliation, the V-1s and V-2s that caused tremendous death and destruction in Britain, but which came too late, obviously, to turn the war. He was also involved in the construction of death camps, including the design of the crematoria at Auschwitz, which, as I just said, which incinerated the bodies of the estimated 1.2 million people. The history books say that one day, after the Third Reich surrendered on May 9, 1945, he either shot himself or took poison in the former German city of Stettin, now Szczecin, in Poland. His body was never found. This whole story of suicide was staged by two of his closest aides, who were committed to him. Karlsch tells ZDF TV in Germany. Now, when I grew up, there were 3 TV stations. I need to explain to you guys so you don't think this is some kind of crank TV station. There was the ARD, which was the Allgemeine Rundfunk Deutschlands. That was TV station number 1. The ZDF, which was called das Zweite Deutsche Fernsehen, which means the second German TV station, which is not very imaginative.
Like Channel 2. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Channel 1, Channel 2.
You know, it's like, yeah, okay. And then Then there was the VDR or
BBC
WDR.
1 and BBC 2. Sorry to talk over.
No,
Repeat
no,
the
but
last one.
But no, that's exactly right. That's exactly. There was the WDR, which was the Westdeutsche Rundfunk. Now, those are the only. They were all government run. These are all government run television stations. So there weren't any private TV stations at the time. And it was. I mean, this is what I grew up with. So this is not some kind of newfangled Sky channel that just popped into existence. Sprouting theories that nobody can prove. So this is a very serious German TV broadcaster. ZDF. Now, this is what Karl told the ZDF in Germany. At the war's end, go ahead.
I didn't say anything.
Damn, I get these funny. There's another one, yeah. At the war's end, America, while taking part in the punishment of many top Nazis at the Nuremberg trials, also launched the covert operation Paperclip, the secret exit of the top Nazi scientists. ZDF says in the documentary, sources say that Kammler was captured by the Americans and interrogated by the US counterintelligence CIC. The Secret Service man responsible was Donald Richardson, a personal confidant of Allied Supreme Commander General Dwight D. Eisenhower. The sons of the Secret Service men told program makers that their father was in charge of the German weapons export after 1945. One of them, John Richardson, said, "This engineer brought a special treasure from the Third Reich into the United States. He offered modern weapons for us. It was put to my father that he should bring this useful German into the United States to prevent him from falling into the hands of the Russian intelligence service." It is not revealed under what name Kammler lived on or where he died, though some archival material speaks of a special guest living under Richardson's wing. I think his name was probably Bush. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. Joking.
That's
Bush.
funny. That's funny right there.
That's another thing. So this is. I'm going to get my hands on this documentary, which I haven't been able to do yet, but I will, and I'm going to watch it, and I'll give you guys. This is probably the synopsis we've just had here, but the reason we included this article is to highlight that Kammler, in fact, probably survived World War II and took with him whatever he was working on for the Germans. And to that end, I must ask you to read the following books. Which I did, so you need to read them as well. And these are, can you still hear me? I hope so.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, great. So there's something, so there's a whole bunch of books here written by Joseph P. Farrell. There's this one here called The Cosmic War, the Nazi International. There's also one called Reich of the Black Sun, yeah, and also the Third Way, yeah. So I urge you to have a look at those. They're researched very well. They're very dry. If you've ever read, I guess, academic papers, it's in similar style to Michael Cremo's Forbidden Archaeology, a very scholarly work, right? So it is not entertaining. You really have to stick with it and read it. A lot of references, a lot of research notes. And the funny thing with the Cremo book, everybody was praising the research, but everybody was completely poo-pooing the conclusions. So that was funny. But with the Joseph P. Farrell books, I have to say there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know. I'm not saying it's all true. I don't know for a fact. I have to do a bit more research. But certainly he's brought a whole new perspective to in my mind to what the Nazis were capable of prior and during World War II, and then of course by extension, I guess, afterwards as well, taking their research both to Russia and to the United States. And clearly, if you look at the last 60, 70 years of history, it was definitely those two nations that benefited the most from the demise of the Nazis, in a scientific, industrial, a sense. That is, of course. Dave, we cannot, in good conscience, talk about Nazi occultism, Hans Kammler, and all that, without mentioning the key mystery around the Nazi science achievements and weapons research.
Agreed.
So please do introduce us to the subject. There aren't too many crazy words here, so you should be good.
It's okay, and I'm going to even give it a shot.
Nice.
So it's Die Glocke.
Very nice. Very nice.
And if you don't know what that is, Die Glocke is the German bell, or the bell. Now, it was purported top secret Nazi scientific technological device, secret weapon, if you will, or Wunderwaffe, described by Polish journalist and author Igor Witowski in, I forget this one, Meki, what is it? Pravda?
Correct. Pravda or Wunderwaffe. Pravda meaning just truth. It's
the truth of the wonder weapon in 2000.
That's it. Yep.
It was later popularized by military journalist and author Nick Cook, as well.
The book is, the book I have in the back here. It's called The Hunt for 0 Point. Again, that's a book.
That's awesome. That's on the you must read list.
That's it.
It was later popularized by, that's right, as well as by writers such as Joseph P. Farrell and others who associate it with Nazi occultism, hence the show title, and anti-gravity or free energy research. Die Glocke has become a popular subject of speculation. Of course we're going to speculate on something that's mysterious. And a following similar to science fiction fandom exists around it, and other alleged Nazi miracle weapons, or Wunderwaffen, as mainstream reviewers such as former aerospace scientist David Myra express skepticism that such a device existed. Now, just to put this aside for one moment, Meki I'll take the first paragraph, you can read the rest. This is because of information that came within the Nazi Party, was released after the war, their structures that seemed to marry up with the description of what the weapon was capable of or what it did, the formation, and then later on the discovery of a very similar shaped item in the Midwest in the US with a dead body next to it. Right?
Textbook.
Yeah, that's right. So we're not just going off on a tangent here, and remember that the Nazis, in all of their innovation, created the first jet engine and incorporated it in a wing with nothing else.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was made of wood. So that's like the Wright brothers plane comparatively to, the B-1.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how that goes together. They were forefront. One of the other weapons that I liked so much was the rocket plane, who only had a 30-second burn, and you could fire it and you just would hope that you weren't shot as you glided back to your airstrip. After shooting up people so fast that you could, maybe only after you came to, could you start shooting at them. Those kind of weapons that's what war does. It innovates, and innovates on a tangent that we've never seen. But this is the thing. Did they do anything else? And this is one of those else's. Okay, the history. Discussion of Die Glocke originated in the works of Igor Witowski, his 2000 Polish language book, The Truth About the Wonder Weapon, reprinted in German as... Mackie, go ahead.
Die Wahrheit über die Wunderwaffe.
Oh, you're awesome at it. Refers to it as the Nazi bell. Witowski wrote that he first discovered the existence of Die Glocke by reading transcripts from the interrogation of former Nazi SS officer Jacob Sporenberg. According to Witowski, not the Wachowski brothers, or now sisters, he was shown the allegedly classified transcripts in August of 1997 by an unnamed Polish intelligence contact who said he had access to Polish government documents regarding Nazi secret weapons. You've got to take it as real. You just
I know
have to. Witowski maintains that he was only allowed to transcribe the documents and was not allowed to make any copies, although no evidence of the veracity of Witowski's statements has ever been produced. They reached a wider audience when they were retold by British author Nick Cook, who added his own views on Witowski's statements in The Hunt for Zero Point. Author Jason Calavato wrote that Witowski's claims were recycled from 1960s rumours of Nazi occult science, first published in The Morning of the Magicians, and described as Die Glocke as a device few outside of fringe culture think actually existed. In short, it looks to be a hoax, or at least a wild exaggeration.
I guess that's us, the fringe culture.
That's the shoot that thing down. Oh, and nothing. We should just erase it from our memories, stricken it from the record.
Yes, it never happened, so just move on. Nothing to see here. Thank you very much.
Shut up.
That's what
I love
they
the
do.
shut up clause.
Right.
Take the description.
It's so good. Allegedly, an experiment carried out by the Third Reich scientists working for the SS in a German facility known as Der Riese, the giant, near the Wenceslas mine and close to the Czech border. Remember, we spoke about that, the Project Giant, and we still don't know why it was built, all these massive underground facilities. Now, the Glocke, the bell, is described as being a device made out of a hard, heavy metal, approximately 2.7 meters, or about 9 feet wide, and 3.7 to 4.6 meters high, 12 to 15 feet, having a shape similar to that of a large bell, hence the name. According to an interview of Witowski by Cook, this device ostensibly contained 2 counter-rotating cylinders, which would be filled with a mercury-like substance, violet in color. This metallic liquid was codenamed Serum 525 and was stored in a tall, thin thermos flask, a meter high, encased in lead. Additional substances said to be employed in the experiments, referred to as Leichtmetall, which is a German word for light metal, included thorium and beryllium peroxides. Witowski describes the Glocke, when activated, as having an effect zone extending out to 150 to 200 meters, which is about 490 to 660 feet. Within the zone, crystals would form in animal tissue, blood would gel and separate, while plants would decompose into a grease-like substance.
What?
So clearly not the most benign of effects, right?
Oops. We keep losing a lot of scientists.
Yes, they are now crystals. Now, if just to be clear, if crystals form in your tissue and your blood gels, not much chance of surviving that. Okay, just to be clear. However, the derelict structure itself has also been interpreted to resemble the remains of a conventional industrial cooling tower. We mentioned this. We discussed this in the other. Oh, sorry. I do apologize. Witowski also said that 5 of the 7 original scientists working on the project died in the course of the tests. Based upon certain external indications, Witowski states that the ruins of a concrete framework, aesthetically dubbed the Henge, in the vicinity of the Wenceslas mine, some 3.1 kilometers southeast of the main complex Sokolec, underground works of Project Riese, Project Giant, may have once served as a test rig for an experiment in anti-gravity propulsion generated with the bell, the Glocke. However, and this is where I just read, the derelict structure itself has also been interpreted to resemble the remains of a conventional industrial cooling tower. Now, that's the article we shared with you last week, and that's the conclusion that particular author drew as well. It's just the support frame structure for a very large cooling tower, which in itself, of course, means that it was needed for, and that further means that there was a massive electrical installation, a massive electrical power plant underground. Otherwise, why would you need such a massive cooling tower? Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's a cooling tower or not, it still leaves us with a number of mysteries to solve here. Witowski's statements, along with Cook's views, prompted further conjecture about the device from various American authors, including Joseph P. Farrell, Jim Marrs, and Henry Stevens. In his book, Hitler's Suppressed and Still Secret Weapons, Science and Technology, published in 2007, Stevens concludes that the violet mercury-like substance described by Witkowski could only be red mercury, because normal mercury has no fluid compounds according to conventional wisdom. Stevens presents a story attributed to German scientist Otto Kearney as told to the then 13-year-old Greg Rowe around 1961, which alleged that a concave mirror on top of a device, which seemed similar in description to Die Glocke, provided the ability to see images from the past during its operation. Now, when we're talking about, yeah, I know. So there's actually a lot in this, what we just shared with you. There's a lot of stuff in there. But you have to understand, we are trespassing, or, not trespassing, but we're certainly making forays into things like toroidal physics. So the Bell was taking advantage of, was utilizing toroidal effects. It was also using like thorium and beryllium are both radioactive substances. Yeah, the torsion effect, that's right. And in fact, the torsion effect is what keeps the universe going. And people have thought that the Glock would offer a portal, or the opening of portals into other dimensions, into other parallel universes, so to speak. Potentially, the ability to view or travel into the past or the future, as well as a number of other things such as teleportation and so forth. So it was a very interesting device if it existed. Now, taking all of that at face value, Dave, and I want you to think about this. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, right? If you take this into consideration, because the Germans knew the V1 and the V2 program was too late to change. I mean, they couldn't make enough V1 and V2 rockets to meaningfully alter the war, right? They knew that, and yet they went ahead and built this massive complex, the Project Giant, the Project Riese in the mountains, massive underground complex, killing, I think we said, about 5,000 slave laborers from the concentration camps in the process. Clearly, staggering number of people dying, but also highlighting just how critical it was for the Nazis to get that finished. Not only that, that project, I think the number was, look, Dave, help me out, it was 40 or 60% of all concrete and steel production of Germany.
That's right, 40, I think, or I can't remember, 40 or 60. Yeah,
it was a very high percentage, right? That went, in fact, to this project, right?
There was 60 because 40% was all that was available for the wall.
You're right. That's exactly right. It was 60%. So that's the vast majority of 2/3 of Germany's steel production was sent to this concrete and steel. And it was labeled kriegsentscheidend, which means critical. Actually, that's the wrong translation. Critical for winning the war is doesn't give it enough gravity. It means war decisive. The actual translation is war deciding. It's a war deciding effort that was undertaken. So V1 and V2, I think at that time, were no longer in that category because you just couldn't make enough of them. But potentially this Bell could have been a war deciding factor, a war deciding technology, weapon. Imagine if only half of the stories are true, right, or 10%. Imagine the leap in science one could make by exploiting at least the effects of the field. I mean, it turns your blood into gel. I mean, if you can generate fields like that under enemy troops, right, or near enemy troops, that's thousands of enemy troops taken care of. But what if it could travel in time, or view, or you can at least see into time, or you could travel into other dimensions? I mean, who knows, right? I mean, we're talking about a physics that we have not spoken of since. Let's understand what this here is. This torsion effect, these toroidal physics machines, the Glocke, right? If you can look at it the way, we haven't done anything in that space anywhere. The Nazis seem to have been the last to have done it, right?
Yeah. However, there's been a number of things. You know, the Time Tunnel, the TV show. Remember? Did you ever see that?
Yeah. I have. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That came about as a result of, maybe 20 years past this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like it had been perfected. I'm not saying the TV show was real, but you don't know how close TV shows were to reality and how...
No, I agree.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, completely.
So I know Maxwell Smart, the show, was blamed for or being accused of getting leaked information from the CIA about their fabulous tech. And Mel Brooks he laughed it off. I said, what do you mean? He's making his shit up.
Yeah.
Right? Beep, by the way. I was a bit late on the beep. So that's really funny that's how that worked. And I believe, this is my personal belief, that the TV shows were really close. And I think Time Tunnel had people sort of spilling the beans that we could sort of do this time thing. Maybe they perfected it. Maybe it was just a shield. It's like, oh, hey, Doc, I invented, microwaves. I discovered a machine that can create microwaves. There you go. That's better. You don't discover them. Oh, you can discover microwaves, but you don't create them. So, yeah, that's great. But everyone on that side of the lab keeps dying for some reason. Yeah? Not until you decide...
Unrelated! Completely unrelated.
Thousands of deaths. Not until you decide to, understand that you need to have shielding around it for it to become an effective food heating machine. Maybe the same thing. Maybe it was just, maybe he was part of that. Maybe they got sucked into the US, because I know the Russians started playing on the wing tips and the nose and the tail of their aircraft, like a plasma creating electric field, which was supposed to give their planes the ability to slip through the air faster.
Slipstream technology.
Yeah. So I know that was part of the Nazi research as well, about being able to create lift from airflow over the surface with high voltage or high tension electricity. Now, who knows, Mackie? My call is, I reckon it happened.
Yeah. Look, there's no doubt. I mean, let's be very clear here. No, not really. Actually, no. This is around common sense and practicalities. So everybody knew that the next great conflict would be between Soviet Russia, also the Soviet Union, and the United States and its allies. Everybody knew that, even as they sat down and had the Conference of Malta and so forth. They all knew that this was going to happen. They also knew that the Germans were so advanced in all of their technologies that whoever got their hands on it first would have a distinct advantage in the future, right, in the next 20, 30 years. So they both, in fact, all of them, so the allies, the Western allies as well as the Soviet allies, they all raced to these strange places. Like there's no good reason why some of these installations were raided or taken by the Soviets or the allies. I mean, it makes no sense. They didn't seem to have any strategic value at all. I mean, none, right? Unless of course you take into consideration the hidden or occulted research, not occult, but occulted research that none of us are really aware of. So clearly, the Allies as well as the Soviets were aware of the German, research. They're also aware that the Germans were well advanced. I mean, everybody saw the Blitzkrieg. They saw the machinery, the weapons. I mean, the Germans were well ahead of their time. Truly, it has to be said, right? And without the Germans, there wouldn't have been a space program for the Soviets, nor for the Americans. So that's a fact. And in fact, same with nuclear weapons and so forth. But this research, nothing about it. Nuclear weapons, that was a secret for a long time. The space program was kept secret for a long time and all that. And people were actually executed for giving the secrets away. Now imagine this thing here. Now, an atomic bomb is bad enough. But imagine you had the power or the ability to somehow travel into time. I don't know what that means, how much you could do, what the what things you could change or not change.
Do you travel in time to your own timeline?
Well, good question, right?
Or does it affect this timeline so bad that we end up with the Mandela effect?
Well, this doesn't lead to a fragmentation and recombining of realities. That's a very good question, right? So the answer is I have no idea. I don't know. But I do know that things are amiss. And maybe have been amiss since World War II, maybe longer, but certainly since World War II, because it was a very different world that existed in the 30s, 40s, and 50s to what we see or what today is, what we have become. And I do believe that a lot of knowledge came into the States as well as the Soviet bloc and pushed that along. And I do urge you to read the Farrell books, Joseph P. Farrell, as well as Hunt for Zero Point. So just to make a point here, Nick Cook was a journalist that worked for, or might still do, in fact, Jane's Defense Weekly. It's a British publication, and it's very serious. It's around it's a military tech, aeronautical journal, all that stuff. It's a fairly serious scientific industrial publication, right? So he's not a conspiracy theorist by any stretch of the imagination. Yet he fell into this, right? If someone left something, so he started researching it. He looked at it and he goes, "My goodness, what in the world is this?" And he went everywhere. He went to the skunk works, right? He went to the Groom Lake facility. He did a lot of research. He did a research into Project Riese, the bell. And he concluded, well, there is something to it. And it seems now that Kamla neither committed suicide nor was killed by the Allies, but rather went to the States under or with Operation Paperclip with a new identity. Is that far-fetched? Not at all. Not at all. We know for a fact that oodles of scientists and engineers and so forth went across into America under Project Paperclip. Now, the Americans called it something. There was like a thing around it. The Russians just grabbed the people and put them into Russia. There's no call it. I'm calling it. I'm taking you into my country. That's what I'm calling it. Operation Paperclip. Americans. So the Russians just went and took it. Took the people, and clearly the Russians took all the right people, because it was the Soviets who made it into space first. Yuri Gagarin, in modern times that we know of, was the first person to go into low Earth orbit. Yeah, not the Americans. Yeah, it was the Soviets that did it, and only a few years after the war, relatively speaking. Mm-hmm. Let's be clear now. Now the Russians had to duplicate a whole bunch of stuff that the Germans already had, I'm sure. So is it so far-fetched to think that Nazi Germany had made it into space? Not really. Not really. Especially if they were able to have a secret base or a secret installation in Antarctica. And maybe they found something in Antarctica they could use, so they didn't have to build anything. They just took over what they found.
Pyramids.
Look, I know we're going far afield, but I need to make you guys understand that this is all connected. Absolutely. This is all related, right? Now, I don't think I want to go into. I want to discuss with Dave a bit more about it, but next week we're going to go deeper into the rabbit hole, and there's a lot more information around the bell we were going to share with you. I think it's fascinating stuff. It's something to look forward to. But Dave, I mean, all things being equal, imagine. There's about another 10 pages left before we're done. Just imagine the impact of this technology in the world, like the secret space program, right? All these things, the trillions of dollars that the Pentagon needs for their black projects, right? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the amazing energy consumption these things would have had, right? The Hadron Collider, all of that stuff. In my mind, it makes a lot more sense all of a sudden, right?
Oh, look, there's a good point. I hadn't associated any of those, and I'm still staring down the ability of being able to time travel.
I know, right?
If you had that technology in your sovereign territory, let's just say that, I love that word, then can you imagine how you'd be able to control anything or do anything? Last night, Mackie, I was watching, it was a Galaxy Quest.
Oh, I love that.
Very funny. We showed our kids Galaxy Quest.
It's hilarious.
Well, that Omega 13 device, which takes time back 6 seconds.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome concept. Now, just if you were able to go anywhere in the universe and anywhere in time, then I think you could make some subtle changes or large changes or divert history entirely in a different direction. Sure. There's a very funny cartoon. It's a single image cartoon, and there's a scientist who's just emerged from his time machine, and he says, "I just went back in time and killed Hitler." And the other guy says, "Who's Hitler?"
Ooh. Yeah, that's right.
Right? So, because the person who did it was the only person to retain the knowledge, because he's been on both sides, and the other one only ever existed through that time period where he never existed. I think that's one of the, you've got to, the grandfather-son paradox. I think all of that should just be thrown away. I think it's entirely possible to meet yourself.
I agree.
If you could go anywhere, anytime, you could stumble upon yourself somewhere. And therefore, that has to be thrown away. Yes, you can go forward in time and back in time, and scientists have proven this now, and even with the quantum entanglement, that particles, that electrons can go back in time, that they behave irrelevant of time. So as time and space aren't connected, we've gone through this so many times, it's not funny. Therefore, time travel must be true. There must be the ability for all of your particles to go back and forward across time. I remember the couple of shows, Becky, that came up that Hollywood had done, where this guy it was his task to just go and do a thing. Okay, so he's military, they're in some basement, secret basement, somewhere in the planet, usually in the US, and he says, okay, you've been called. He goes, right, okay, what's the thing? He goes, here's your notes. We're sending you back. And so he gets filled in on briefed, and then he's sent back in time to do a task. Now, we know people today do tasks. We know people today are sent, and the spies are real, and they go somewhere and they've got to do something, and then they return back to base. They have missions. So if you had a time machine, you'd have missions. But just how severe on the timeline could those missions be?
That's a good question.
I wonder, right? What do you think the severity could be, Mackie? What do you think we'd be staring at?
Look, the thing is this. If we had the ability to change our timeline specifically, rather than traveling into a parallel dimension and in fact changing our time. Yeah, so let's think about it this way. So in our reality, there's Hitler, right? The World War II and all that happened. I travel back in time. I kill Hitler in 1922, whatever. And then I travel back to my time.
World War One. Do it in 1915 or something, right?
1915, sure. But the point is, I may never be able to travel back to my timeline. I can only travel into the new timeline I created, right? Or maybe not created, but I now jumped into, because there's nothing new under the sun, and all realities coexist if we're living in a multiverse, right? So I can actually never go back to my time. Or if I do go back to my time, there may be no effect at all, because I did create a new timeline, but I went back to my timeline where the effect where nothing happened, but something happened in another timeline or another reality. So it becomes very complex, right? And the question is, what is the reality? However, more catastrophically, let's say I can change our timeline, right? And I travel back to the timeline I changed. So I killed Hitler. World War II never happened. What are the ramifications? Well, the ramifications are that my life no longer exists potentially. Like, all I know doesn't exist. All my knowledge is completely useless, right? Because something else happened. And maybe my wife, my parents weren't born. Who knows, right? I might
Imagine
be a
the
person.
population of Europe.
Well, that's it. Exactly. But exactly. In fact, there would be a very high Jewish population in Europe still, right? If that never happened. But the point is that I may have done myself out of an existence. I might still exist, but not really, because I changed things to the point where I'm still here, but I never really existed, even though my physical existence is possible because I wasn't in the continuum when it changed. I was outside the continuum. I traveled
that
back
makes
into the
sense.
continuum, and here I am, but I don't exist. But I do, but not really.
But
So it
you're
becomes,
a visitor in that
Yeah.
existence.
yeah.
Yes.
But worst case scenario is that the changes I affect are catastrophic, and to the point where I might destroy reality. Because the thing is this, I don't know, and if anybody out there knows, please let me know, right? I have no idea what energy expenditure is involved in any of this. And then I want you to think about the laws of thermodynamics. The laws of thermodynamics. And one of them is the preservation of energy and so forth, right? Now, there's only if the law states there's a finite amount of energy in the universe, maybe in the multiverse, right? And if we displace energy from here and there and things are different, would the energy displacement that comes with time travel? I'm just speculating. This is like tinfoil hat. So
this is a valid question.
what would it do? Would it create a knock-on effect that actually unravels the thread of the multiverse? I don't think it could destroy the multiverse because I think it's not built that way, but it certainly could do damage in a localized area. I mean, maybe we are wiping out part of our existence, and maybe the Mandela effect, right, that people are talking about, and that I think we have experienced as well. Maybe that's symptomatic of what we did. We started to take a single thread of what is the carpet of the multiverse, and we started to unravel it. And all of a sudden, things are bleeding into each other. Maybe universes are colliding in a way, in a metaphysical sense, right? And maybe in a real sense too. I just don't know. And it is a mind-bending speculation, right?
Oh, I've got some. Okay, so if you affect... So the first question is, if you're moving such a large amount of matter between multiverses, does that have an effect? That would have to do something.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It would lessen the amount of mass in one and increase the mass of the other one. It would have to have some kind of effect. If you affected the multiverse that you arrived in so that you never became born, for instance, in that multiverse, you would still have had the life in the other one, therefore you're now a visitor in the new one, despite yourself never being born in that new one. You could live quite happily if it was a wondrous place where people just danced and ate and there was no conflict, right? You could enjoy yourself immensely, probably get bored because, humans don't like things that are just work. Matrix quote. So imagine then you do make a change and these multiverses have a link together, because before they were separate, there was differences, but now you've made two of the multiverses the same by making a very similar connection between the two of them. Maybe that makes a single stream of two different universes. So you've just joined two of them together in a way that, was imperceivable by the people, except when you were talking about Mandela effect. Maybe that can make the change. Maybe that's all it takes. Is you move Mandela from one cell to another, he doesn't die or whatever it is, or you happen to be, incarcerated next to him and you save his life and he's alive. He was alive in our one, but I remember the story when he was pronounced dead. I remember that personally. I was there. I remember it. So if that change was significant enough, because, Meki, would you want to go back in time and save Mandela? Right? If you had a list of things, I mean, what would be on the list? Would that be one of the items on a list? He's got to live.
Well, yeah. Look, it would be, but the thing is, having saved him, we just created another problem. See, this is the thing with time travel. So let's say we saved Mandela, and here we are, and look at South Africa today. I mean, really look at it. It is in a mess. It's in a mess. Is it better than it was before? Well, it depends whose point of view are you looking at, right?
Depends on who's meddling.
Well, but that's right. So,
Yeah.
and let's say you do kill Hitler, for argument's sake, right? Then what? What could have happened instead? Could you argue that, no, it doesn't really matter if Hitler's alive or not, and the Nazi movement would have happened? Well, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe it needed a catalyst like Hitler to come along and really, because he was a fantastic speaker, right? He really rallied the people, right? And I think it needed someone like him to come and do what he did. But what else could have happened? Well, Germany could have imploded. Because the thing is this, Germany was a failed state after World War One. The Weimar Republic didn't work. Right? There was hyperinflation. I mean, it was horrible. In fact, America suffered from the Great Depression as well. There was the stock market crash in the 20s.
Oh, both
I mean, the
trying
20s.
to crawl out of their despair.
Yeah, I mean, the world was in a mess. World War II, for all its horrors, got the nations out of that funk, right? Because a lot of people died and a lot of property was destroyed. The industry could breathe again because a lot of things had to be rebuilt after World War II. Okay, so this is why I'm talking about wars as solutions to economic problems.
Debts are forgotten.
They are completely, because they're all dead anyway. Everybody's dead. So your debt is forgotten. I mean, you owe nothing anymore. Because but even then, the people that were owed the money, they're not going to go hungry, right? Because they're the money people. They're always going to be okay. Mm-hmm. So, but all of a sudden, millions of people are dead. The property damage goes into the trillions. I mean, entire cities erased. In fact, Hiroshima and Nagasaki completely destroyed. Dresden. Yeah. Completely destroyed, obliterated, right? Entire countries plunged into poverty and so forth. So massive opportunity. Again, like we started the show, the people that use the beggars to make a coin, people that have this I guess entrepreneurial bent. They don't look at things like chaos as a bad thing. They don't look at the catastrophe as a bad thing. It's opportunity. It's opportunity. Okay. The country is bombed to the Stone Age. Awesome. Let's sell them some plumbing. Look after. Oh no! Look at.
I'm with you.
Look at Iraq. Iraq was bombed into oblivion by. I mean, there was more munitions launched against Iraq in Gulf War 1 and 2 than in all of World War II together, right? And who goes in? Halliburton, right? Lockheed Martin. Boom! In they go. Rebuilding. Okay,